Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So today is the day the new Line 6 Helix Stadium is out. It is officially shipping. Some folks have actually already gotten theirs. So I couldn't be more excited. I'm having a lot of fun digging into this thing, seeing what it does, playing with it, having a blast really. So with this video, I want to go over the new features, talk about what's new, what's improved, the differences between the original Helix and this, and as well, I'm going to play a few sound examples for you because what's the point if you don't get to hear what it sounds like, right? So we're going to start with some of the Agora amp models and then go from there. So what I thought I would do is just do a couple like classic amplifiers. I'm going to a Fender, a Marshall, and a Vox, just to let you hear what they sound like. We're going to start out with the Deluxe Reverb. While this is, it's my Variax, it looks quite like a Gibson guitar, but the sounds you're going to be hearing in this are going to be Fender, mostly Strat neck, and then the Strat in between sound. So the thing to really listen for in this one is just the dynamics. It has a really good dynamic range. You can feel it kind of pop when you dig in. And real quick, talking about the feel, because that's one of the things that they talked about when Helix was being released, is it just feels differently. And I'm going to be honest, I think they're right. I feel more of a back and forth and exchange with the amp model. It just adds another level of realism. I mean, everything sounded amazing before, but this is something a little different. So hats off to Line 6, whatever they've done to create this black magic. But anyway, let me play through a little bit and let you see what you think. See, as you can hear, just a really nice, clean sound. This amp model is set to where it's not breaking up at all. When you dig in, you just get more. It's punchy. It responds like the real deal, not just sound, but feels. So that's pretty cool. So next, I'm going to hop over and take a look at the Plexi. Okay, so the way this is set up is it's pretty crunchy when I'm on a bridge position. In this case, I'm using a modeled P90 pickup in the bridge. So you'll hear a pretty good amount of crunch, but then when I flip to the neck pickup, it cleans up quite a bit, especially if you start to work your volume knob and pull it down a little bit. I feel like while the original Helix models did well with basically reacting to the volume knob, as well as any modeler I've played to date, I do feel like this really is kind of taking that up another level too. It really does seem to play into the way the amp reacts when you work the volume knob on the guitar. So let me play a little bit and let you hear what I'm talking about. So yeah, it just responds so well to the output of your playing, of the pickups, of the volume control. This level of interaction is really something new, I think, that I've experienced with modeling, and I'm really enjoying it, man. It's really cool. Okay, so the next amp we're going to take a look at is a Vox, basically set up like the Marshall in terms of if I've got a high output pickup and I'm hitting it really hard, I'm going to get some breakup. Otherwise, it's going to be more of a clean sound. So let's see what that sounds like. So it's really nice. You can, no pedals needed there. Just change how you play. And if you're using like the neck or bridge, you can get a full range of tones without touching anything. So really cool, really responsive. Again, I mentioned this earlier, but I think these Agora amp models just have a much wider dynamic range, and they just respond differently. I guess that's the best way I can say it. Like I said, the Helix model sounded great, and they felt great too, but this just is a different thing. It's really different in an absolutely amazing way. So I think you guys are going to enjoy the Angora amp models. Okay, so while we're talking about the amp modeling, there is a new parameter they've added to all the Angora amp models, which is really cool, and that is the hype control. Now, basically, my understanding of the hype control is this. When it's set to 0, you get the absolute authentic version of the amplifier. Some amplifiers have some oddities, like ghost notes and little things here and there that are, you know, I don't say, maybe undesirable to some, maybe some like the authenticity of it being in there. The hype control is going to be a more idealized version of the amp model that you're wanting to hear. And what I mean by that is this. If you listen to your favorite albums, whether it's Led Zeppelin or Van Halen or whoever, what you're hearing is not what that amp sounded like in the room. You're hearing that amp mic'd up, that mic going into a console, an EQ, compression, reverb, whatever they've done to it, and then mixed and mastered with all the other band instruments. So you're not really hearing, you know, the authentic tone, so to speak. It's been processed. So that's the thought behind the hype control. And it basically just gives you a little more of a finished tone, a little more, you know, a little more, as we'll see. but it can be really good control. And I like the fact it's not on or off. It's 0 to 10. Because I rarely find that I want it all the way 0, all the way 10. Like usually there's a sweet spot in there for every amp model. There's a place where I want it. Now, in terms of what this control is actually doing, I don't believe Line 6 has said, but if I had to guess, I think a lot of this is EQ and compression. That's what it sounds like to me. And the cool thing about this is you could add compressors and reverbs. You would take up space on your chain. You would have to dial it in. All this stuff where you have one slider and it's doing a lot of work, and it can really bring an amp to life. You know. So anyway, let's see. I'm back to the Plexi here, and let's just play with this control and see what we get. So this is with it all the way off. This is the authentic version of the amp. All right, we're going to bring this up a little bit. It's a little brighter, a little more in your face. It's got about 50%. I'm going to add a little more growl to it. Let's go about 3/4. Go all the way up. So to me, you know, again, I don't know what is going on behind the scenes, but this just feels and sounds a lot like compression to me, in addition to EQ. So that's why I'm saying I don't necessarily like it all the way on 10. In this case, I felt like halfway was probably about the sweet spot. And then just for reference, this is without any hype. Not a bad sound at all, but you can hear it's a little more present, a little more bright. Which can kind of help it jump out in a mix a little more too, which makes sense as this is kind of making the ideal tone. So anyway, that is a really fun control. I absolutely suggest that as you're going through and trying out these new amp models, pay attention to that control, because a lot is happening with that and you can cover a lot of ground with one slider. Okay, so another new thing is the focus view. Now, when you click on the focus view, the first thing you notice, you get a nice big pretty graphic of whatever it is you're editing, be it an amp or a pedal, but also there are settings in each of the corners in the middle and you can see them labeled. So it's kind of, think of it as like a preset within a preset. There's all these kind of settings for whatever it is that you're using, which can do a number of things. One, you might just find one of the settings there that you love and you're done. That's it. You like it. But it can also, if it's, let's say it's an amp you're not familiar with, it can give you a good idea of the range that amp has or that effect has, whatever you're using, whatever you're modifying. And to me, one of the really, really cool things about this is it's not just settings, kind of like the hype control. It's not on off. As you drag the cursor around the screen, the parameters change incrementally. So literally every part of the screen is a different unique set of parameters, which I think that's really cool. So I would definitely spend some time in Focus View. You might learn some stuff about different amps and pedals that you didn't know before. And, you know, finding new fun tones is a good thing. Okay, so another cool feature they've added is you now have Wi-Fi and Bluetooth included in the hardware. Bluetooth's pretty self-explanatory for streaming audio, but with the Wi-Fi, you can do a number of cool things. Right now, I have the editor connected to my Stadium via Wi-Fi. Also, if there's a new firmware update, I can log in to my account on Stadium and download firmware directly over Wi-Fi, which means there's very few times that I'm actually going to need to plug my Stadium into the computer with a USB cable. But the only time I would need to is if I'm going to use it as an audio interface. It didn't seem like a big deal having to plug a USB cable in, but much like with the touchscreen, which I'll talk about that in a second, it's like I didn't think I needed it until I used it. I'm like, oh, this is much nicer. So Wi-Fi and Bluetooth has been added. That's really cool. As I just talked about, the touchscreen has been added. So basically, already, in my opinion, the best UI in the business. Helix had just a fantastic user interface, and now it's made even simpler and easier by the addition of a touchscreen. So screen is very responsive, works well. I think you all are going to enjoy doing editing with that touchscreen. And so speaking about editing, as you build presets, what you may notice is you now have a lot more DSP power, roughly double from my understanding. Now, looking at this preset that I've got pulled up, if you are brand new to Helix, I'm just going to make this very quick, but I do just want to talk a little bit about how the setup works and the architecture here. So basically, each line here represents half of the DSP power. There are 2 chips in there, and so you can do a number of things. Like you can chain these 2 together if you want to use all the DSP for one preset, or you can use one row for an input for a bass, one for a guitar. Lots of stuff you can do. More videos about that coming, but just to kind of let you know how that works, that's where the DSP is represented. Also, as you drag over, you can see that these blocks light up. So what that means is you can add, anywhere there's an empty block, you can add something. So right now you can do 12 blocks on a line. Before it was 8. But in addition to that, you can do splits where you can have even more. But you can do quite a bit comparatively to the original Helix, and just adding a lot of effects. If you do like some poly effects and Agora models and really heavy reverb, you can run out. I mean, that's the beauty though. And what Line 6 created is everything is freely assignable. So if you want to max it out, you can max it out. You're not limited to, here's a drive block, here's a reverb block, here's a delay. No, they let you do whatever you want to do, which I love. They've been doing that since HD 500 days. One of my favorite things about the way Line 6 sets their pedals up. So yes, you can run out, but you have double of the DSP. So there is a whole lot you can do with the preset. And I'm looking forward to seeing what people come up with, because now that the extra horsepower is there, there's going to be some fun presets made. I guarantee it. So speaking about editing presets and having more DSP power, we also now have the ability to do more splits and routing options than we did before. In the original Helix, you could have a split per path, but that was it. You had one. So with Stadium, now we can have multiple splits per path. So I could add, like, let's say, second delay, and I'm going to drag this over. So these are in parallel. And so basically, this isn't the preset building video. I'm going to have plenty of those coming, but just to kind of talk about why this is a concept. Right now we have basically the path is hitting, the guitar signal is hitting here. You're getting this delay process, this delay process. They're coming back together, but one delay is not feeding into the other. Let's say we had a quarter note delay, and then we had an eighth. Let's do a dotted eighth delay. I'm not playing like it even matters, but anyway, the way this is set up, the guitar signal would get a dotted eighth put on it. It would get a quarter note put on it, but the quarter note delays would not get dotted eighth delays, and vice versa. So it's kind of neat. So you can have different delays, and it will work the same way with reverb. You can have one huge, massive, lush reverb, and then just more of a very light ambient reverb, run them in parallel, and you're not having one reverb literally wash into another one. You can do the same thing with modulation. And again, the fact that we have a bit more flexibility in the routing, now I can come down here and make another parallel path. So you can do multiple parallel paths. I can merge these and have, there's all kinds of routing options. Again, there'll be a video on that. I'm not going to spend 10 minutes going through that, but this is something cool that you could not do in the original Helix. So I'm really glad they added that. I'm all for having flexibility. I think in particular, the guys that do presets with a lot of, reverb and delay and modulation, like a lot of the praise and worship style musicians, I think they're going to have a lot of fun with this. This is kind of a game changer in terms of how flexible your routing can be. And I'm looking forward to hearing what they do with it. Okay, so another cool thing they've added is with Stomp mode, originally it was just Stomp, but now we have Stomp A and Stomp B. What that means is we have a whole other set of Stomp switches available. So think of it as a bank. We have 2 banks of Stomp switches now. So if I want to assign something to a switch, I can assign this to Stomp A. And so then let's say we have like a million other effects and we've run out of stomps. I can come over here and assign this switch to something in the Stomp B section. Like I said, it's a whole other bank. So Stomp B1. So if we have our foot switches set up to basically toggle between Stomp A and Stomp B, we can have all these things on Stomp A, flip over, all those things on Stomp B. Now, it's handy for a number of reasons. One, now that we can add so many effects, we have so much more DSP, it's easy to run out of foot switches. I used to do it all the time with the original Helix because I kind of treat my presets like an amp and a pedal board. So I try to throw everything at it. And it's nice to have foot switches to control everything. You just, if you want to use an effect on the fly. So that is a really good reason that I'm excited about having this as a new feature. But also in addition to just turning effects on and off, you can assign parameters to foot switches. So let's say you had an amp model and you wanted to change the parameters to where it was very clean and then it became very distorted. That's just one example. You can do the same thing with, modulation pedals, setting the time, or delays, setting the feedback and time, anything. The sky's the limit. So, you could have Stomp A be all of your stomp boxes and then Stomp B be all of your parameter changes you may do, or mix and match. But it is just added a lot more flexibility and a lot more options. And I am all for that. Thank you, Line 6. Okay, so this is a small little UI thing, little user interface thing, but it's a nice little touch, I thought. If you come over here, basically you can get a view graphically represented as knobs instead of sliders. If you prefer to adjust it where it looks more like what you would see on the faceplate of an amp or a pedal, it's a small little touch, but I think it's pretty cool that they took the time and trouble to do that, because some people do prefer having a more, one-to-one representation of what they might see on a physical product versus just sliders, which can seem more, I guess, computerish. I don't know if that's a word, but it's a small thing, but it's pretty cool. One thing I did forget to mention when I was looking at the amps earlier is they've overhauled the cab block a little bit. So now, previously you could have a cab block, a dual cab block, or an IR block. You couldn't mix and match cabs and IRs in the same block. And if you wanted stereo IRs, you had to have 2 IR blocks. So now you can do it all inside of one block. Right now I have 2 cabinets, turned on, but I can do the same thing in terms of I can have an IR on the right or the left or both. So basically, yeah, you can mix and match anything you want inside of the cab block, which makes it really convenient because you don't have to do any, with an IR before you would have to have 2 different blocks, and you could not mix and match within the block, the IRs and the Helix cab. So again, that's a nice touch. I think people that are going to enjoy that, especially folks that use a lot of IRs. This just makes it easier to get to your sounds. Okay, so while it covers a lot of the new stuff that is available in Stadium as of right now, of course, there's things I haven't talked about yet, but there'll be more videos coming. But having said that, there's still more coming that isn't available right now. One of the big things is the showcase feature. You're going to be able to import up to 8 stereo tracks. You can use it to use a backing track player. You'll be able to set up flags for different things to happen along the timeline. Let's say you're playing to a track. You can set a flag to where you want your guitar tones to change from clean to dirty or from crunch to lead, whatever you want to do, where it really becomes a band in a box at that point. If you're playing solo gigs, it's fantastic. It's like having a roadie. Just do all your switching and then a band behind you playing. So I think that's going to be a really big feature and a lot of fun. For practicing at home, it's going to be amazing. And then, I've done some solo shows where I have like just a looper. All I use it for is basically doing backing tracks. So having this built into the pedal, at least for me personally, is a big deal. And I think a lot of people are going to enjoy it. So one of the other big things coming out that I know guitar players are going to love is they call it proxy. My understanding is kind of like a profiling, capturing type of technology where similar to what like Kemper or Tonex does, it takes a capture, which I think of as like a snapshot of an amp with certain settings, certain speakers. And you're going to be able to do the processing in the cloud, so you can do the proxy while you're still using your pedal and let you know when it's done. I don't have a lot of information on this yet. I've got just as many questions as I have answers, probably more questions than answers, but it is coming, and I think it is going to be a really cool addition. I'm hoping that there's like a online sharing community like Custom Tone. I'd be surprised if there's not, but yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun seeing what people capture and come up with. And I think that is really going to round out the Stadium package. I mean, at that point, there's not much, if anything, it doesn't do. Okay, so lastly, and this is one that's particularly interesting to me, there's a port on there called the Nexus port, and there's going to be a breakout box that, among other things, is going to allow for some digital input and output of channels and audio. But the real thing that I'm excited about is it's going to add Variax support. So right now, if I use the VDI cable into an original generation Helix, I can control it, power it. Helix can send messages. The Variax can send messages back. I love it. I really, over the last many years, I've grown accustomed to that setup. Understandably, they didn't build that interface into the stadium because it would have added a cost. And the fact is, unfortunately, there's just not that many Variax players out there anymore in relative comparison to the number of non-Variax players that are going to pick up a Helix. So I totally understand why Line 6 decided to not build that into the hardware. And I'm thankful there's going to be, an external box that's going to be able to be that bridge that go between Variax and Stadium. So I don't know the time frame yet, but that's supposed to be coming at some point. So that'll be a good thing, particularly for us Variax guys. Okay, so there's the new Helix Stadium, and I've talked about the features and features to come and the things it can do, and believe me, there's a lot more that I haven't talked about yet, and so please actually hit that notification bell so you get notified as new videos come out, because I'm going to be doing a lot of Stadium content. So much to dig into and a lot of fun to be had. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. If there's any questions about things I've covered, or if there's something I didn't cover you have questions about, please put that down in the comments below. Also put in the comments any ideas you have for future Stadium videos you'd like to see me do. Because like I said, I'm planning on there being a lot of them. So let me know what you guys want to see. I always appreciate you guys. Thank you for stopping by and checking out the video and the channel. I hope it's been enjoyable for you and that you've been able to get something out of it. As always, please like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And until next time, we'll see you.